When I was 7 years old, my mom enrolled me in a music school. I was excited but also nervous. I had always wanted to learn the piano, and now I was finally going to start. My mom and I arrived at the school early, so early that the place was almost empty. No students had arrived yet, and it was eerily quiet. While my mom was busy filling out some forms for my enrollment, I sat in the lobby, waiting. But I was a kid, and patience wasn't something I was good at. The silence made me fidgety, so I decided to explore the school a little bit. I got up from my seat and started walking down a long hallway. The walls were lined with framed photos of students, trophies, and certificates, but they didn't really interest me. What caught my attention was the faint sound of music coming from the far end of the hallway. It was a soft, beautiful melody, and it sounded like someone was playing the piano. I smiled, feeling a rush of excitement. That was the instrument I was going to learn. Maybe it was my future teacher playing. I wanted to see who it was, so I followed the music to the very last room at the end of the hallway. The door was made of solid wood, with no glass window to peek through. I pressed my ear against the door and listened. The music was incredible, like something you'd hear in a movie. It was gentle yet powerful, the kind of music that made you feel something deep inside. I stood there, completely absorbed in the sound, imagining myself playing like that someday. I was so lost in the music that I didn't notice how much time had passed. Suddenly, I heard my mom calling my name from the lobby. She said my teacher was ready to meet me and show me the room where I would be studying. I quickly ran back to the lobby, where my mom was standing with a kind-looking teacher. She smiled at me and asked if I was ready to see the classroom. I nodded eagerly, my mind still filled with the beautiful piano music. To my surprise, the teacher led us down the same hallway I had just explored. As we got closer to the end, I realized we were heading straight for the room where I had heard the music. My heart raced with excitement. I was about to meet the person who had been playing so beautifully. The teacher reached the door and turned the handle. I stood on my tiptoes, trying to catch a glimpse of the pianist inside. But when the door swung open, I felt my stomach drop. The room was empty. The piano was there, sitting silently in the corner, but there was no one else inside. The air in the room felt cold, much colder than the rest of the school. I turned to the teacher, confused. Who was playing the piano just now? I asked, my voice trembling a little. The teacher looked at me with a puzzled expression. No one was playing the piano, dear. You must have imagined it. I knew what I had heard. The music had been so real, so clear. I felt a chill run down my spine as I stared at the piano. Something wasn't right. I glanced at my mom, hoping she would say something, but she was busy talking to the teacher about my lessons. As they chatted, I took a few steps into the room, drawn to the piano. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been there just moments ago. The keys looked untouched, but I knew they had been played. Suddenly, the door behind me creaked shut. I spun around, but no one was there. My mom and the teacher were still talking in the hallway. I was alone in the room, and then I heard it. A single note played on the piano. The sound was soft, almost like a whisper, but it was enough to make my heart stop. I stared at the piano, my breath caught in my throat. Slowly, the keys began to move on their own, pressing down as if an invisible hand was playing them. The same beautiful melody filled the room, but now it sounded haunting, eerie. I wanted to run, to scream for my mom, but I was frozen in place, watching in horror as the piano played itself. And then, just as suddenly as it started, the music stopped. The room was silent again, but the air felt thick, heavy with something I couldn't explain. I backed away slowly, my eyes never leaving the piano, and rushed out of the room. I grabbed my mom's hand, tugging at her, desperate to leave the school. She looked down at me, surprised. "What's wrong, sweetie?" But I couldn't find the words to explain what had happened. All I knew was that I never wanted to go back to that room again. As we left the school, I glanced back one last time at the hallway. The door to the music room was closed, but I could still hear the faintest echo of the melody lingering in the air, as if it was following me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those piano keys moving on their own. I heard that haunting melody playing over and over in my head. It wasn't until years later that I found out the truth. The music school had a dark history. Decades ago, a young piano prodigy had died tragically in that very room. Since then, there had been stories of students hearing music when no one was there, of pianos playing themselves. I had heard that beautiful music, and now I would never forget it. Even now, whenever I hear a piano, I feel that same chill, that same fear, knowing that something is still there, waiting in the silence.